So I recently got a new Mac Mini, a new old Mac Mini, to replace my very, very old Mac Mini. So the new Mac Mini, I'm installing everything, and I went to install Ideamaker, and I've had a lot of people say, could you show me beginning to end Ideamaker, installing it and everything. So what I'm going to do is go from scratch. So I already downloaded and installed it, but I haven't set it up yet. So I'm going to show you the basic setups, some of the things I do, some of the ways you can go about changing things. Let's go to the computer. We are going to do the tutorial on Ideamaker. Now I was trying to do it right from install, but I went to do it and I recorded the whole thing and there was no sound because I forgot to set up the mic on the new computer. Dope! So I already installed it. But I did take everything out of it, so hopefully it will make me go through a setup. There we go. Even though it's remembering my old setup. But we could set up a new one. So, after you've installed Ideamaker, the first time you open it, you will not see the grid back here, but you'll get this little configuration wizard. And you will need to select one of your printers. Now, if you have a Raise 3D printer, that's great. Select your Raise 3D printer and go to town. If you don't, there is now this other. Now, we used to have to, until this last update or the update before that, you used to select one of these and then you just edited it. With this one, you can now select other. Type in a name. I think I'll make this for the Max Micron. So I'll call it Maxi Pi because I have a pi attached to it. The nozzle is a 0.4, but it only does safely 190. It actually does 200, but I always do 190. 190, if I could type. 170. Does have a heated bed. I really don't have an enabled fan speed control, but I always leave it checked anyways. My safe distance is about, I'm just going to say 1.5 millimeters. Now that's from the build plate. So if you have like a lot of these are 220 square, but you really can't get right out there because the nozzle will hit something. This is a edging that gives you a little safety border. The build plate is rectangular and it is Marlin, and I want to use, I always go with the Raise 3D PLA 1.75. All these other ones, and I've tried a few of these other ones, I get errors with them. That is one of the glitches with it. Now you can actually make your own of these, and I did it, and it freaked out my printer. Every time it would get to the 5th or 6th layer, it would just freak out. I don't know what it was doing. So safely just, check the PLA 1.75. You can go into the advanced and check your E-steps. You can compensate, check your baud rates. I always bring because of this printer, my bed maximum temperature is 90. It'll actually do 110, but I don't like it to. And I only keep this at 265. Because the highest I ever go is 250. You can do your end and start G-code here. Stuff you want to change, you'll have to read about it more. I don't really use it much. Okay, and then it's going to walk you through everything to double check all your settings. Got a heated bed, there's one extruder. I'm going to use the Raise 3D PLA 1.75 as my base filament. Boom, done. And there it is. Now here's one of the biggest things I really like about Ideamaker. And everyone was like, oh, Simplify 3D is so great. It's like the fastest changing between printers. I have 2 printers. Watch how fast it changes. Oh, it's not there anymore. I guess I can't change it. Well, here we go. Boom, done. It's already on the other printer. Go back to it. That's how quick it changes printers. It's instantaneous. Okay, now, you can start loading stuff. You can add a file. Go into the mount. Spool main. There you go. This is my little spool that I've designed. We'll get into that later. But now we're inside of it. Now, one thing I do like to do is get rid of this stupid shadow box. And what this is representing, if you zoom in, this is representing that safety thing I just put in there where it's like 1.75 away from the build. It just drives me nuts. So I don't really want to see it. And right here it says, show extruder printed range. Goodbye. That drives me nuts. Here's all your basic controls. You can scale it. You can type it right in there. I love the rotate. It has these 45-degree clicks, automatic. So, or excuse me, 90. Not 45, they're 90s. And reset it at any time. Very simple. Scale. Very, you can use uniform. I think this is even better than even like Simplify 3D. I think Cura is very good. Cura has some issues with the controls and how you move it, and there's no direct input. Simplify 3D is not bad, but I think this is a better layout. You can free cut here. I'm not going to get into that very much right now, but that's for layering and doing all kinds of things. Now here's one of the big things, is the custom supports, which I'm not going to use. Actually, well, here we go. Let's rotate this and pretend I need supports. You can create auto supports, which, holy crap, but you can also, like Simplify 3D, remove them. Click, 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 or clear all supports and just add the ones you want where you want them. Sweet. That's supports. They're manual. They're better than most other ones. I mean, they're as good as, if not better than, Simplify 3D. There's no other program that's as good. Craftware was close, but it's just too wonky. You can max fit, which will just bring it out to the max size that the build plate will allow. You can duplicate, reset everything, repair. Now the repair is good on this. It's a very good repairing. I have yet to find a model. Actually, there was somebody gave me a model that could repair, and I can't remember what it was. But basically right here, if you see this little check mark is not green, it'll say yellow, and it will give you some non-manifold edges and error orientation phases and numbers. When you hit that repair, it goes through. It's not the fastest repairer of them all. It is one of the best. The other thing is you can repair it and then go out and export it. And you can actually export it as an STL again after you've repaired it. So if you've downloaded something from the dreaded Thingiverse, who knows who modeled it world, and there's a whole bunch of errors and manifold edges and interlocking faces that don't belong, or something like that, you can repair it in here and re-export it. Even if you don't want to slice in Ideamaker, you can export that model after you've been repaired. That's awesome. Now, let's get into the actual slicing end of it. Okay, the first time you do it, you're going to come up with this. There is no profile here for your slicing. It's going to be based on this profile that you selected here in the beginning. And you can always change that now at this point. And here's what it's basing it on. It's basing it on, whoa, that's not what I wanted. How did I get that? I wanted the PLA 1.75. Oh, watch that. Okay. It's telling you the brand is, and you can change all these. I mean, you can make your own. Add, duplicate, change them, do whatever you want. The diameter is 1.75, your density, who the hell knows. I didn't pay anywhere near $30 for it, and I don't have any raised filament, and the flow rate is at 94%. I used to keep this up to 100. I found that 94% is about right using Ideamaker. I have a feeling Ideamaker over extrudes naturally. So does Simplify 3D. Everyone will be like, oh, Simplify 3D is at 92 or 96%. Don't need to do that. Well, I always found they actually printed better and plenty strong by leaving them at their default settings. And I think it's part of the slicer's deal that it over extrudes. So by over extruding it they set it to under extrude. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is create a profile. Now, whenever you create a profile, it's going to take it off of one of their existing. You need something for it to base itself on. I'm going to go with base PLA, and I'm going to set it for blue tape. Now, the blue tape part just means I'm going to set my bed at a low temperature. Printer type, doesn't matter. I usually go with one of these right here. I'm going, oops, nope, got to go with this one because that's a 1.75 PLA. And I go with standard quality. Now you can change all of these, and they really don't matter. These are just templates to start from. They're not written in stone. They're just what they're basing the information on, so you have something to go edit. So I'm going to hit OK, call it blue tape. It'll come up and tell you it wants to do an infill density of 10%, shells 2. It wants to do a raft. I never do a raft. I always do a skirt or a brim. Supports none. I'm going to put it at all, because if I don't want them, I will take them out myself or just not add them. But let's get into the advanced settings. Now here's where all the fun begins. And if you look at this and you've used Simplified 3D, this should look very familiar because it's almost a carbon copy of it. There are changes, there are differences, but it's very similar. The first thing you want to do, if you're not using a Raise 3D printer, is click this button. And before you do anything else, this is one quirk you really want to do. Let's go into your G code and come down here where it says post-processing commands. All the Raise 3Ds, or almost all the Raise 3Ds, have some weird code. I don't even know what it actually does, but it can screw up your print. What you want to do, and it's a 1001 and a 1002 command. I don't even know exactly what it does, but I know it screwed with my printer way back when I first started using Ideamaker, like 3 versions ago, so I just automatically do this now. If you're not using a Raise 3D, go in, click that add, come down here to say remove all occurrences of source, and just type in M1001. Okay. Now, when it writes its G code, it will never write M1001 anywhere in it anymore. You also want to do it for the M1002. Now, if you know you have something else and you know what that code is, I don't know what it means. I just remember them telling me not to ever let it work with a regular printer, especially the duets. The duet hates that M1001 command. You do remove all occurrences. You can also replace the source. If you have some other command you would like to replace it with, that's fine too. I don't know even what it does, like I said. M1002. And that's done. Now we can go back and actually start working with the slicer. Now, with this one, with the Max Micron, which is what I'm on, because it says MaxiPi. I'm on the MaxiPi. Okay. I usually do for basic stuff, and I will set this up for basic. I do 2mm. I usually do 3 shells. And this is all your normal stuff. Again, you want to hit this print shells in optimum order. That was one of those things that I used to complain about and stopped using Ideamaker over, because it used to go and do a border on a hole and then shift over and then go do a border on a hole and then shift over and go do a border on a hole and then go back to the first hole and do the second shell and go back to the second hole and do the second shell and the third hole and do the second shell and then go to the first hole and do the third shell, and it was just obnoxious and took forever. Now the first layer, I never wanted to go that deep. I always want it to match. First layer speed is usually smaller, slower. These are all settings you're going to know from most of any slicer. I mean, they're the same whether you're using Ideamaker, whether you're using Cura, Slick 3R, or Slicer, or Simplify 3D. Any of them, they're all going to have these same basic settings. Your default print speeds, your inner shell speeds, your outer shell speeds, so on and so forth. Your spiral vase mode is right here for doing your vases. You can switch whether you want to print your external shells first. I never understood why anyone would want to do that. Print parts in the same order. You can print it off and do different things. And I'm not going to get much farther into any of this. Your extrusion width. You can set up your retractions, your coastings, your wipes, all your infill settings. They're all here. There's a lot of them. Your support settings, all here. Again, there's a lot of them. Your platform adhesion. I always do a skirt. Here's your skirt. Here's your raft. This is your skirt and brim. Actually, if you put it on brim, it'll just convert over to a brim right here. I always just do a skirt. I almost never need a brim. Cooling. You can adjust all your coolings by layers. I'm going to do that right now. I am going to remove this one. I am going to go up to 2, make it 75%. at fan point. Then at 4, I go to 100%. And that way, it doesn't cool my bed off as much. Now, one thing I do have to do with this printer is the fans will not kick on at a slow speed, which is why I actually have to put it to 75. They won't even run at 50 or 60%. You have to blip it at 75. Okay, so hit that. If your fan doesn't start at your second layer, hit the blimp. Pretty much all the slicers do that now. Now we get into our temperatures with this one because I'm doing the blue tape. I want it at 40, 210, 215. I'm going to leave it at 210. And then you can use temperature control and all that stuff. This would actually allow you to adjust your temperature per layer. It's really cool. You can do your cool down. You can get into some advanced. You can set your accelerations, your jerks, your filament settings, whatever you want to do. You can make your primary. And now remember, I said it was at like 94%. You can actually override it here and make it 100. Your ooze, force retracting. This is one area I hate. I do not like the retractions on the first layer because it retracts constantly. And I don't mean it just when it needs to. When it's doing, I don't know why, but on the first layer, if it's doing the infill, not anything else, just the infill, going back and forth and filling it in, it'll do the line, and it'll hit a shell, and it'll retract, and it'll move over, and it'll put the filament back in, and then go over and do the straight line over to the other side of the shell that it hits, and then we retract and move up. It's just obnoxious. It doesn't need to do that, especially not on the first layer. It does make it a little cleaner, but, and again, this isn't the perfect slicer. It's just one of the better. We don't need the wipe wall because it's a single extruder, and this is only for dual extruder. Wipe walls for dual extruders. You can use your travel through holes, blah, blah, blah. There's some weird stuff here. Allow filling of gaps with single extrusion fill. Yes. I just automatically leave that on. Pause at height. These are all your pause points. If you want to just do a pause, change your filament, that kind of thing, you can add these here. This bridging detection works very well. I've never really played with it. I just leave it at default. It does help. I get pretty good bridging out of this. When I get more into it, I may start actually playing with it more. And then your G-codes, all your start and layer retraction G-codes, you can change it all. Again, you really, really want to do this, remove 101 and 1002. And that's it. That's the slicer. Okay. There's the groups and layers. I started doing a video before. I did a short video before on the layer settings. I haven't played with the per model. I'm sure someone will come along and do it. You can also group things together and change them. And that's pretty much it. You hit slice, and it goes in and slices it. Now, here's where it gets a little wonky to me. I'm not a big fan of these windows. It's always got this window here. You can preview it. I do like this preview over most of the other ones. You can add a whole bunch of colors, but I really don't like the colors. Most of them do this wicked overkill three-dimensional image. Simplify 3D is renowned for it. Everyone seems to love it. The problem is it's inaccurate. Because it's such a blown out three-dimensional line, it doesn't look correct. It hides issues. A lot of issues. Where I actually like, you can select this to only do the current layer, and you can go through and you can see every layer as it prints, and you can actually go through each step of the layer too. And they all do that at some way or another, but I just prefer this one. This is very much like what displays in the G-code file on a Raspberry Pi when you're using Octoprint. And that's it. If you don't want to see it, you export it. Tell it where you want it to export to, and it's done. This is another thing I don't like. It keeps doing this, coming back to this window. Not a big deal. But that pretty much wraps it up. That's the basics of Ideamaker. It's highly tunable. The last update, I think they fixed 87 or 88 different individual items, and it was mostly fixes, and I don't want to say, I shouldn't say fixes. There were a lot of feature adds or feature edits. There was features that weren't working as expected or could do more, and they did a boatload. Unlike a lot of the other companies, they actually listen. I do believe they've updated their software 3 or 4 times in the last year. This last update has been spectacular. It's the only slicer I use now, really. I use this or Cure. I don't look at any of the other ones that much anymore. But that's it. That's the basics of Ideamaker and how it works. There you have it. Very quick, basic overview of setting up and getting Ideamaker started. If you're using another slicer and you want to bring all your stuff over, most of your settings, if you look at them, will pan right over. I never had any problems carrying everything over from Superfly 3D or from Cura without an issue. Your basic everyday settings. That's it. Go give it a shot. Download it. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. Have a nice day.